Was Tupac Shakur dissing MC Hammer from that 1991 video and where he called him a Sambo? Or was it just hip hop? Or was Tupac just doing the same thing that artists do to him now he's deceased, speaking his name in a controversial way, trying to gain publicity? Yeah, let's get into some of this straight game.
Yeah. Blackjack. Life is like a game of cards. It's not what you dealt, but how you play it. Correctly. I remember they used to laugh at a brother.
Welcome back, guys. Welcome back. It's your boy DELRAY Richardson, platinum artist, platinum songwriter, Straight Game TV. Thank you for tuning in. I appreciate your time. Do me a favor and hit the thumbs up button notification, as it helps push the content out to more potential viewers and potential subscribers. Also, subscribe to the channel yourself if you haven't already, and tell a friend. But more importantly, if you're new to the channel and you would like to be one of the first people notified when I drop some of this straight game, please do me a favor and hit the bell notification right below this video. I'm gonna get right into it. Woo, 1991. I'm sure y'all seen the video by now. Tupac calls MC Hammer a sellout, basically, and a Sambo. What I find interesting about that, because I've been bombarded with questions and people asking me, are you going to respond to that or make a video about that? And so, you know, at your request, here it is. Let me start off with this. The young lady who was interviewing Tupac was none other than Dominique Duprema. She worked out here in LA on 92.3 The Beat. She's also the young lady doing the skit at the beginning of To Live and Die in LA from the Machiavelli album, and where she's talking to Suge about Tupac's new album, and she's talking about how Tupac was talking about having sex with somebody's wife, but not in those words. That was her. And so what I find interesting about that video, most people who don't have context, right? I look at the video and I say to myself, you know, that's hip hop. That's just how hip hop was. And I'm going to give you what artists do today is none other or no different, should I say, than what Tupac was doing at that particular moment. Right. So she was asking the audience what was their favorite song in hip hop at that particular time, or artist. And when she got to Tupac said, "You Can't Touch This" by MC Hammer, but he said it in a sarcastic way and got a reaction from the audience like, "Ooh," you know, from that perspective, you know, as to allude to, you know, MC Hammer being something different than, or the song not being as hot as he thought it should have been from his perspective. And then Dominique Duprema goes on to say, well, you know, why is everybody so hard on Hammer? He sold 10 million records. Tupac goes in to say, well, crackheads bought 10 million rocks of crack, but that don't mean crack is good, you know. And that spawned another reaction from the audience, right? And then Tupac goes in to say, well, you know, selling records ain't all that, you know, and so on and so forth. And I thought that was kind of hypocritical at that particular point. But you got to remember, this is 1991, right? Tupac just getting his feet wet, right? So understanding that, Tupac had no idea that he would become at that particular time and go through all of the stuff that he went through at that particular time, the artist that he is or is known to be today, right? So now, by that being what that is, I chalk it up to being hip hop. And the reason why I say that, that's no different from what artists do. We just seen T-Pain. We just seen will.i.am, and we've seen 70 other rappers use Tupac's name in a favorable light and unfavorable light, talking about, well, they don't like him. Well, you know, they think that Biggie's better than him, or they think that such and such is just like him, or the next him, or whatever, right? So you got to understand, MC Hammer was at the top of the food chain. 10 million records. Can't Touch This. Too Legit to Quit. All of those records, like I said, doing world tours. You know, he employed damn near his whole neighborhood, all of his homies, and all of that, right? So Hammer definitely gets props for that. And Tupac, you know, said that much, you know, in the video. But Tupac was doing no more than what artists do to him now that he's gone, using MC Hammer's name, and with that statement and damn near calling Hammer a sellout, right? Would definitely have gotten him some traction back then as far as publicity is concerned. The game hasn't changed. It's just the players, right? But the difference is that Tupac was in his own lane and doing something totally different, and he wasn't far from what he was saying and what he grew up to be, a Black Panther, you know, on that thing. And so that's why he would say the Sambo thing and then allude to the fact that, oh, you know, they just want to see somebody dance, you know, like Dance for Master or whatever. And basically he was implying that MC Hammer fit that mold, right? But I disagree. Number one, I disagree because Tupac said that, well, the record sales don't mean anything, right? But Tupac wouldn't know. Remember, this is the 1991 Tupac. He would not know that he would grow up to be one of the biggest selling hip hop artists of all times, or rappers of all times, right? And when he began to sell records crazy, he himself then went on a tangent about how he was selling more records than Biggie and Bad Boy and everybody else, Alanis Morissette and everybody else. He made the comparison because her album Jagged Little Pill, when she put that out, did crazy numbers too. But other than that, it was Tupac at the top of the food chain. So from that perspective, you know, sometimes you got to watch out what you say, right? But then when Tupac was at the top of the food chain, he had people like Chino XL and all of these other people saying stuff about him, like Tupac said stuff about Hammer. You get it? Mobb Deep. It was a bunch of other people that were throwing subliminal shots at Tupac, Biggie, and so on and so forth when Tupac was at the top of the food chain. Tupac Shakur was doing nothing different in regards to MC Hammer. MC Hammer was the top of the food chain at that particular time. He was too legit to quit. He sold 30 million records. And it was phenomenal. You can't take that away. So from that perspective, I think it was kind of hypocritical for a young Tupac to say it. But like I said, once again, it was par for the course. It's hip hop. That's no different than, like I said, T-Pain, you know, saying what he said about Tupac, what he thought about the artist would do to Tupac from that perspective, even though his was a little bit more incendiary, how he insinuated that Tupac would have got murdered or something like that, you know, from that perspective. But yet and still, it got that attention that T-Pain was hoping and wanted to get by mentioning Tupac's name. And the crazy part about the video is that I don't think even back then in 91 that Tupac making that actual statement about MC Hammer, right? I don't think it got more traction than it got today, than it being released and going viral all over social media. Because we didn't have social media back then. It wasn't like 91. You didn't have no Facebook or none of that stuff. You know what I mean? You know, either you saw that on television or you didn't see it. And it wasn't that big of a thing. You know what I mean? But now that the clip has been released, was it Cron TV from 1991, it went viral. And, you know, now people are kind of comparing, you know, what Tupac meant to Hammer before he died and how Hammer came over and signed the death row and so on and so forth. The question that I have to ask, and the next time I see MC Hammer, I'm going to ask him, you know, did he know about that video? And if he said anything to Tupac about that, like, yeah, you know, I heard what you said about me, you know what I mean, and so on and so forth. Not to be in any kind of threatening way or nothing like that, but, you know, if they had talked about that in regards to that. So, yeah, I chalk it up as hip-hop. I chalk it up as hip-hop. I think Tupac was trying to be incendiary. He was trying to be provocative. He was trying to get, you know, some publicity at that particular time, because that's what you do when somebody, you know, they asking you a question and you can do something like that on a television show. And it's like, hey, you know what? let me go for the top of the food chain. Let me say something about MC Hammer, you know, and he did that. And as we see now with the video going viral, some almost 30 years later, right? There you have it. But it was Tupac Shakur. It was you know, Black Panther Tupac Shakur, Tupacalypse now Tupac Shakur. And he was just on that thing, you know, and being true to who he was. And that's what I liked about it most. You know, it was Tupac being true to who he was, and you could see that he wasn't scared to say how he felt and how he really felt about that situation. So I lend it to truth. I lend it to being provocative. I lend it to getting publicity. I lend it to just like I said, I lend it to hip hop, because that's just the way it is. Like I said, you know, when Jay-Z was at the top, you know what I mean? You know, people was coming talking stuff about Jay-Z. You know, him and Cameron had something. It was Ice-T and LL Cool J had something. You know, the varying, you know, beefs and things like that. People making diss records and so on and so forth. And as long as it stayed on wax, it was a good thing. You know what I mean? And so, yeah. But later on, Tupac and MC Hammer would come to be label mates over at Death Row for a short period of time. And they did do some music together, from what I understand. And yeah, you know, so I chalk it up as hip hop. I chalk it up to hip hop, you know, but it was a very interesting video piece. Yeah, and it just shines more light on Tupac's legacy, you know, and Hammer, you know, he's still doing his thing. You know, he's still too legit to quit. You know what I mean? And yeah, so it was hip hop. One artist going at another artist, making a statement in regards to how he felt about hip hop. You know what I mean? By saying Hammer was diluting, should I say, hip hop. I don't think that was so. I think Hammer gave the game a shot in the arm from that perspective, and he made the culture a little bit more accessible to the suburbs. You know what I mean? And so on and so forth. So Hammer kind of reeled them in, if you ask me. I think MC Hammer reeled them in and got them ready for Tupac Shakur. You know, from the perspective of, you know, oh, this thing is this hot. This, you know, because Hammer, when he sold all them records, it was on TV every day. You know what I mean? And so now here comes a young Tupac Shakur, you know, all of this drama, this real life stuff he was dealing with, and you know, and making good music, you know, and making music that touch your ribs and touch your soul and people could relate to, you know what I mean? Relate to those stories. So, yeah. So like I said, I take it as hip hop, and I think, like I said, once again, Hammer cleared the way for a lot of other MCs that weren't necessarily like him or doing the style of music that he was doing. He paved the way. You don't sell 10 million records, 30 million records, you know, being no slouch. You know, Hammer was out there working hard, and I think Tupac recognized that later on down the line when they would, you know, come to, you know, do a little something over at while he was under the umbrella of Death Row at that particular time. So yeah, it was hip hop. Your boy DELRAY, straight game.